Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Kipjo. I'm Seven. You're watching GEEKCASTER. This is part 2 of the conversation. We're talking about writing and consistencies. And it is important to a certain type of fan. And to the fans, it means a lot. Now, a lot of like Marvel, DC, a lot of people didn't know who certain characters were. They didn't know who Nightcrawler was. They didn't know who Cyclops was. They didn't know Wolverine. You know what I mean? So Deadpool, nobody knew who Deadpool was, except for the fans that were into these things, right? So Submariner, I mean, let's go on. Like, if you weren't Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you know.
Spider-Man.
Say it again?
Spider-Man.
Right. Then
for Marvel.
Yeah, you know. So, again, I'm going back and forth DC. Yes, I know. People out there talking, leave some comments. But, you know, everything has changed because of the movies, right? And the series and stuff, which is great. But when you're producing these things, it's the fans that get it hyped. And then really, we're the ones that say, come on, you got to watch this movie about the hunter. You got to watch this movie about, which is coming out. You got to watch this movie about this and that. Like, we're the ambassadors because we love this stuff. So don't forget about us when you're making the content. So back to your stuff, the more and more you expand the EVO universe, do you have these concerns of disconnecting things that should be connected in your writing?
I try and keep the story as grounded as possible. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to put it.
Okay.
And I try and follow. So I take it where the story leads me is where I follow it, and I also write from a sense of emotion as far as if I was a fan reading it, am I being transported into the world that I am writing? Okay. And I think that's a thing that it's a craft that I'm not a master at it, but I'm trying to learn it, and I've learned it tried to understand it from other master writers. Writing, I explained to somebody, is true master writing is able to put emotion onto the page, and that emotion catches the reader and keeps them there for hours and hours. So they're like, "Oh my God, I read like halfway through the book."
Right.
That's not so. That's where it all starts off. Is am I writing something that catches the emotion of the readers, and then I take it from there as far as the story goes. So I can say it was harder in the beginning because I really didn't. I'm being honest. I didn't know where from the first and maybe the second book. I didn't know where this was going to go. It's gotten a little bit easier as the story goes on, and it plays in my head as to where I want to take this. Someone asked me, is there an end point to this? Eventually there will be, but I don't see it. I mean, unless, I decide to take on another team of writers and, in the near future, and they take it where they want to go. But for me, no, I like where it's going so far. So I don't really I'm not a big fear of that. I think the big fear is like, if I get a writer block, like, okay, I don't know where the hell I'm going. Sorry, now
does it help doing so many titles and having so many characters where when you have a wall with one, you just, all right, let me put this over here and now I'm gonna pick that one up?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the good part, and I was kind of flustered about. I was like, oh my God, I'm actually taking on 3 different series. I realized doing that was the best thing I could have ever done, because like you said, there were times I was like, I'm on, work. I think it was Genesis, the 3rd book I was working on, and I was so stuck, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta get this done. And I'm like, it would be like 3 months went by and I didn't write anything. I'm like staring at the screen, and I'm like doing everything else. I'm like, I don't know what to put on. and eventually, something will pop up, and then I'll start putting the chapters together. So working, I didn't realize it. I was like, I'm taking on a lot of work, but there's stuff there are other stories I want to tell, and in telling those stories, it's made it easier for me to, say, okay, well, I have nothing for this, but I got something for this here. Let me work on this, and vice versa. So it did help. It
It
helped a
did help.
lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you did mention in part one of this conversation. So you got to go
Yes.
back. If you didn't see that, now you got to go back and check it out. You're a hip hop head.
Yes.
Now you said that with, you like, no, yes, like 100%. Because of technology,
Yes.
and there's AI, blah, blah. Do you feel that what you do in writing these epic stories are now going to be impacted just as the music industry has now been impacted with AI?
I mean, so I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I see the positivities to it, and then I see the negatives. I don't think that AI will ever replace storytelling. I think, I don't know. I mean, as far as, eventually people are gonna start using it, but will it amass to good storytelling? It's just like, you got AIs out here, and yes, they're drawing these amazing pictures and whatnot, but is it something that is going to reach good stories? It doesn't matter what is done, and this goes back to the concept manufacturing, always spitting out content. The testament to a good story is how it lasts, or anything, stories, music, whatever. The testament of time. Can newer generations pick it up and be like, yo, this is amazing? You know what I'm saying? Even though it's a classic. So, as far as, on the other side, somebody writes a story or they do a song, and the next thing you know, it's on the top charts for 30 days. Next thing you know, you've forgotten about it. Like after next year, you're like, okay, I don't want to hear this song no more.
Right.
So that's where, AI is good for, I would say, what's the word for it? For like small work, like,
Okay.
things that need to be, like, I would say, like a book cover, like maybe, if you ain't got the time to do the description on the back. As far as contributing to the actual story, unless you're doing a comic book, and you now they got the new AI where you know what I'm saying, you just put the words in and you can
and it makes everything.
create a comic book. So,
Right.
hey, hey, money, whatever way you can say money, I'm not gonna hate.
Right.
I can't hate.
Right.
But as far as, you're still gonna need people to tell good stories.
Right.
End of story. You just do.
Right.
You just do.
Right.
I don't know of an AI that can mirror the human emotion yet, that draws people in, and that's what you need to tell good stories. But that's my opinion.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a big shift to coming. I mean, a lot of people, even just from that have like 9 to 5s doing graphic design, I'm hearing a lot of individuals that lost their job. Like they no longer have a full-time job because of AI, and had to go into other industries. So yeah, I don't know. We shall see.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I'm sorry, but technology is going to win in certain things because it beats out tedious work. Is where AI is superior. It just, how you gonna? It works 24/7. It just does.
Right.
In certain things, but like I said, that's why a lot of people are more gravitating towards being influencers or online, or, you know what I'm saying, and trying. But even in that, which I told somebody a long time ago. I said, if you remember YouTube from way back, everybody was on there.
Right.
I said, but you notice who stood the test of time? People that were real creatives are still on there making mad money, while those that, you know what I'm saying, tried to pick it up and thought that they could duplicate it. You don't see them anymore.
Right.
You don't. You really don't. So.
No, it's true. That I think that even with music, it's going to get to a certain point. And I've heard some tracks. I've heard some stuff where you swore something was real. Everything was fake. The beat was fake. The musicians, the singer, the rapper, all virtual. And it's to the point soon, very, very soon, people will actually do this because they actually love it. The motivation won't be just, I want to be famous, so I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I want to be rich, so I'm doing this. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people, I mean, for the history of the entertainment business, or should I say the recording industry business, it's been a lot of people that just wanted the fame and just the money, and there will be a divide. There will be a really strong shift, and looking forward to that. You know, because it's like a sea of people throwing out stuff, and I see that a little bit at the comic book conventions too, where every year there's another crop of, we got some money and we're gonna throw an idea, but the passion isn't there, or putting in the work, as you put it, and making sure there's actually viable stories versus, this is just like Spider-Man 42, you know, or this is just like, you know, where it's like, I've seen this before, you know.
Yep. It's you can tell, because every time that I come back, I like when it's good to like walk around before the convention starts, and you see guys that have been there and they've been there from when I started. They're still there, and they're coming back with new content, and then guys that you saw that, you know, like 2 years ago, they're not there anymore. Either they for whatever reason they choose not to come back, or, you know, they're just not there for whatever reason. I shouldn't go on whatever, but it's a testament game of passion. It comes down to passion.
Right.
Do you love this enough to see it through to the end? Through ups and downs. I've had tons of ups and downs, and, you know, bumps in the road that I could go on forever about. But I love doing it.
Give us one.
Let's see where there was. Let me think. I'm thinking off the top of the head. I remember, and this was a real big one when I first started. This actually, when I got an editor to do my first book, and I didn't pay him a lot because at the time I was, I had my 9 to 5, and I had my other bills. So I was like, I'm saying, let me just. This guy said he was good. He edited the book, and I got crucified really, really bad on the first book. People liked the story, but they told me it was kindergarten editing. I got trashed on the cover, which I did for the cover, that my very first cover. People thought it was bad. It was kind of the only thing that kept me going was the original guy that critiqued my book. His name was William Leafield. He was a sci-fi, and he created my first manuscript. And he gave me all the pointers. He's like, "Yo, you have something here." He said, "All you have to do," he said, "just keep going." I couldn't pay him to be an editor because what he was asking for, rightly so, he deserved it, was a lot of money at the time. So I couldn't get him to do it. But you know what I'm saying? So I kind of went cheap on that, and I kind of regret doing that. Which I'll tell anybody that is getting to this: spend for an editor. Okay. I know it's a lot of money. Spend for it. So I got crucified for about 2 years while I was working EVO Uprising, and at the time I didn't have a thick skin. Right. It really bothered me.
And it kind of sucks because that was your first thing, and it's done. Yeah. That's it. So this is what it is. you move on to another one, but it becomes part of your library for good, bad, or indifferent.
Exactly.
Right.
But through the power of Amazon, I was able to do the EVO Uprising, and I was actually able to repackage the first.
Okay.
Get somebody to properly edit it while I was doing EVO Uprising.
Okay.
Do a better cover, and just submit both of the books. And EVO Uprising did so well that people went back and reread the first, and they're like, "Oh, now we get it." And they're like, "Wow, there's," you know what I'm saying? So, that was. But yeah, I took almost 2 years of hell over that.
Wow.
It was like 2 years of total hell for that, among other. Yeah. So.
Wow. And this is not the first. Well, this is the first time I heard that as far as the editor, but I did hear just in general, you got to spend the money. You got to put the money aside. If you're gonna do it right, you're gonna have to spend to do it right. So is that accurate?
Yep. Very, very accurate. You have to. Wow. I know it's a pain in the neck, but that you have to. Technology has gotten better. They got systems like Grammarly that make it a lot easier to edit. But people, are to this day, there's still a stickler that, what I'm saying, you have to come with it. Your game has to be real tight in this, because people are very fickle, and the slightest thing will turn them off to your story. The slightest thing, that will, I don't want to read this no more. So
the character's wearing blue socks. I'm done.
One person. What was it? It was one mistake I did make, and I actually had to change it. The one error I did in EVO Uprising was that there were polar bears. So I think they said that I had it in the South Pole, I think, and they said the guy said polar bears are in the North Pole. Right. He said I needed to take a geometry class. It was a mistake. It was an honest mistake. I was like, so I had to correct that years ago, because when we did the audiobooks, we did a refresh on those covers, and I was like, so I'm going and just make this change. But yeah, people, they what I'm saying, they really get in there. They'll come for you for the smallest thing, man.
Wow.
Over polar bears. And he wrote half a paragraph just on that, a comment.
Wow.
Mind you, he praised the book, but he made sure to get it in that polar bear comment.
Wow. What do you think? And I'm sure this is subjective, and to make a film is not an easy thing. And I noticed there's a trend where people are jumping into comic books, not for necessarily the love of comic books, because at the end of the day, they just want to do a film. And I met someone at Artist Alley, and they had this whole spiel and stuff, and the way they were talking is like they were saying all the right things, like, I'm a woman creator, and da-da-da-da-da, and support da-da-da-da, and like the whole spiel and all that other stuff, diversity, ba-ba-da-da. But I was like, do you love this? Well, I've been working on it. But do you love this? I just got this vibe. I was like, ultimately, what do you want to do with this? He's like, well, I want to make a film. So I was like, why don't you just make a film? And then like they didn't really have much of a comment, and it's expensive. Well, it's expensive doing this table and this spread and the printing. This wasn't cheap what they did, Yeah. And it's interesting. But how do you feel that as a creative that actually really loves comic books, and some people don't?
As far so if you have to, I think, if you have to lead with anything that has to do with gender, with race, in order to sell, then you got to question what you do. Why are you doing this? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, their eyebrows, what do you mean by this? It's obvious I'm black. You're not gonna escape that. My
Yo,
characters.
Kipjo, you black? All this time,
am I right?
this interview, no.
But someone once I explained to somebody, if you want to be known as I don't strive to be the next Stan Lee. I don't want somebody. I think it's a compliment when somebody says that, he's kind of like, his work is kind of like George Clancy or like Stephen King, which I've had people comment on that.
That's great.
That's nice, but that's not the level I want to be above them. And I don't want to be the black version of them. I want people to recognize me as me and my stories as my stories. And to do that, your stories must stand alone, and your characters must stand alone beyond their skin color, beyond their gender. And the reason I say that is because Superman does. I mean, the character, if you look at Superman, you look at the character of Spider-Man, they stand alone without even having to even announce their character or gender. So why can't we same and have characters that stand based just on their character themselves? So that's the first mistake that you make. As far as taking it to the next level of film and whatnot, I think that consistency sparks fruit. So if you have the money the problem with making films is the gatekeepers that are standing in the way, and people that you would expect that especially black people that look like us that are in those talking rooms, not speaking out enough for creators like us. Because that's the only way we get a voice, is when people that are above us that have reached there look back and see us and is like, yo, this story is out there that, that are amazing, that we can bring to the forefront and get them made. We have to be realistic. It costs a brand new IP, a brand new IP, especially a good story that people are going, unless you're going to do like an independent thing, which, but I'm saying a brand new IP, you need some backing against it. And you need people that are willing to go to bat for you to be like, yo, this story is amazing, take a look at it, we can put this much budget onto it and get it done, as opposed to the hundred of thousands of comedies that we put out every day. Then you've got I think we talked about it, every year we get the same type of story,
right?
A religious story,
right?
A comedy. This is a fact. A historical story, and then in between we might get a iRobot with a, or we'll get something like that. But most of the times we're being casted into stories, or we're being put into stories where, of IPs, of original IPs that are originally for people that were white. And then we're getting crucified online because, of the misrepresentations on fictional characters that we don't, Why do we need to take all of that heat when we can just make original characters and original stories that represent us?
I love to hear you as a creative say these things, and we've had these conversations at the con over the last couple years. Yeah. The reality is, if people actually function that way, there'll be less creatives. There'll be less comic books. It wouldn't be. It's almost like which I think there should be, right? Because if everyone really went in the kitchen and really cooked, not only you'll have great stuff, but you wouldn't have as much white noise. It's just like the music industry. There's so much noise. And then you hear something, you're like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's sweet to the ears. But you got to get through all this noise to get to the sweetness. And I think everybody has a story to tell. I think everybody has a perspective, a way of looking at things that's so uniquely to them. But the challenge is for them to connect to that, and to, move forward. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll honestly see what's happening.
Yep. Yeah. People have a story to tell. I mean, if you're living and breathing, you're telling a story.
Right.
The difference is like I said, and I go back to, you've got people that can tell regular stories, memoirs and what, and then you've got master storytellers, and those are the world builders that can take you to a place that you've never been before, and like I said, keep you there, and what I'm saying, where and I'm throwing out J.K. Rowling. I mean, come on, the Harry Potter series,
right,
dude, and she went from where she went to actually get that story in front of somebody to get it done is insane. And regardless of what you want to say about her, people are still, what I'm saying, they're doing HBO is doing a damn series right now, and people are all game for it. So come on.
Wow.
You didn't know?
No, I did not.
Yep.
What is it based
HBO,
on?
It's so I think I think someone said they're basing it on the years after Harry Potter. So it's a new generation. That's what they said they're doing. But it's actually a TV series they were talking about.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, I'm laughing because it's interesting how people can stretch success. What's it called?
How well?
What's the other one that was real big on HBO? Game of Thrones.
Yes.
There's several things in the works now with them. Just stretching the universe, just stretching, which I find that funny. I kind of bowed out on the last one, season 2 of House of Dragon. Did you watch it?
I watched it. I watched it. It was slow paced, but the ending was amazing. So I watched it.
Okay. Am I getting that right? Because there's Game of Thrones, then there's
House of Dragons. Yep.
Gotcha.
House of Dragons.
All right. Well, now that you said it was amazing, I gotta follow through because the acting is great.
Yes.
Set design, the costumes, the acting. That's one thing with all the game of consistent. That stuff is great.
Yep.
I'm just tired of hearing the dragons every 5. It's I get it. That's one thing that the original one, they didn't overdo some of the, you know what I mean? They threw things in there, but they didn't overdo it.
Yeah. So. No, I get it. I think what happened was that people were so enamored with the first series, and especially the dragons.
Yeah.
That we're back. And to be fair, I mean, this is taking place when there were dragons were prevalent in the world. I guess that's why. Yeah.
Let me make sure.
But I can see this. The series, it was slow paced, but I think the reason they did it was they were trying to emphasize more on the human characters, and less on the dragons themselves, and that's why it was kind of. But it made sense in the end. I will tell you that.
Before we run out of time, how can people follow you? Is there a website, social media? How do they get in contact with you?
You can. We're at www.evouniverse.com. We're on X. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So you can hit me up on all social medias. If you go on the website, you'll find all our social media links. All my work's on Amazon and on Audible as well. So
excellent.
Yeah, definitely. So,
and we're out. This is GEEKCASTER's Kipjo. I'm 7. You're watching GEEKCASTER. Thank you for your support. And we out.
Yep. Thank you.
And we made it. Woohoo! We made the time.